I was going to talk about this story about the FCC coming after Alex Jones's flagship pirate radio station in Austin, Texas. But I didn't, because it didn't seem to make sense. See, I know a bit about Alex Jones's history. Admittedly, I don't really watch his show, and people have criticized me for criticizing him when I don't watch his show. Well, that's fair. And a lot of the people who criticize Alex Jones and call for his removal don't watch his show either. In one of my past videos, I made reference to Alex Jones and the battle rifles incident, where he talked about, bringing up your battle rifles against censorship and all that stuff. And I quoted the news article in my story as saying he said, take up your battle rifles against censorship. Well, I ended up actually watching the video, and this is my bad. This is totally on me. I should have watched the video before doing it. But the video wasn't necessarily about Alex Jones and the battle rifles thing. That was peripheral to the main story I was doing, which was more about people quitting Twitter. But what I discovered is that Alex Jones never told people even to point their rifles at anything. I could be wrong, but I watched the segment that everyone's sharing accusing him of inciting violence, where he literally just said something to the effect of, it's coming, be ready, make sure you have your battle rifles ready by your bedside or something like that. And in my opinion, it was very metaphorical. I'm surprised that, I shouldn't say I'm surprised, but people are taking that to be like, look, he's inciting violence. And it's like, we still have the Second Amendment in this country. People have rifles. And he's saying, so I guess maybe. It's like I think the big concern with what he's saying is that it's potentially too extreme, like it's revolutionary or something to that effect. Anyway, everybody started running the story saying that Alex Jones had the FCC is targeting him now. And that's just not true. They said that it was his flagship radio station. So here's what I was going to say in the beginning. I know a bit about Alex Jones's history, and I'm not an expert, but my understanding is that he's a syndicated radio talk show host first and foremost, meaning that his show appears on the radio across the country. Legally. Normally. So when they said that his pirate radio station was taken down, I was like, what? Why would he have a pirate radio station? Like, the guy's a regular... He used to do like public access TV. I don't think he's really super... Why would he be broadcasting out of his apartment? That's weird. I know for a fact that Alex Jones makes like millions of dollars. Okay, maybe not for a fact, but scuttlebutt. I've heard from a lot of people that he rakes in the dough, selling those Vita supplements. So here's the story we have from the Hill. Surprise, surprise. Correction! FCC targets pirate radio stations that broadcasts Alex Jones. Oh, you see how dramatically different this story is now? Because at first they were saying it was his flagship radio station. Now they're saying it was just a pirate radio station that happened to broadcast Alex Jones. And that is dramatically different, okay? It's one thing if Alex Jones's operation has been shut down by the FCC, because then everyone's going to go, whoa, censorship is crazy. It's another thing when some random dudes in their apartment are broadcasting a radio signal, and then the FCC says, hey, you can't do that. So let's look at this story. Correction, FCC targets pirate radio station that broadcasts Alex Jones. The FCC has shut down a pirate radio station known for its broadcasts of conspiracy theorist Alex Jones. The Austin American-Statesman reported Wednesday that the station Liberty Radio was hit with a $15,000 fine and at least temporarily pulled from the airwaves. The newspaper reported that a lawsuit filed in federal court in Austin alleged that Liberty Radio had functioned without a license since at least 2013 and had been transmitting from a tower at an Austin apartment complex. Okay, here's the big problem with this. Listen, if you don't like Alex Jones, that's fine. I don't care. I'm not a fan of his. I don't watch his stuff. But if you read this initial story and you really believed that Alex Jones was broadcasting from an apartment in Austin, you kidding me, dude? Have you seen the videos he produces? Okay, apparently not. Because he's got a studio. He has staff. He's not going to, rent an apartment and put a little transmitter out the window. That's ridiculous. People believed it. So when I first read the story claiming that his flagship station was taken down, I was kind of confused because I'm like, the dude's probably a millionaire. He's got a big studio with a bunch of staff. What? It just doesn't make sense, right? So Liberty Radio, or LRN.FM, stopped airing on the radio in December, but still streams online. The FCC is charging the station. The FCC is charging that the station was also illegally broadcasting on FM wavelength. The Associated Press reported that Walter Olenek and M. Ray Nadler Olenek were named as the defendants in the lawsuit, and the apartment complex from which the station was transmitting is linked to them. The Olenics reportedly told the FCC that they would not pay the fine and would treat any agency representatives as trespassers. It sounds like a threat. I'm not trying to be hyperbolic or anything, but if you tell a federal agent you're going to be a trespasser in Texas, I think y'all know what that means. Media reports, including the local statesman, described the station as Jones's flagship outlet. NPR reported Thursday that it had picked up the nickname Alex Jones Radio over the years. The station does air rebroadcasts of The Alex Jones Show. However, station host Danny Sessom wrote in a Facebook post late Wednesday that media reports describing the station as Jones's flagship are actual fake news. And I'm reading from The Hill, which this article is a correction. I wonder if I could pull up a cached version and see what they originally wrote. Noting that Jones didn't broadcast from the station. Jones, a conspiracy theorist who founded the site InfoWars, has recently been banned from several platforms, including Facebook and YouTube. Yada, yada, yada. Jones has been forcefully criticized. Editor's note, this story was updated at 3:20 p.m. Thursday to reflect that Liberty Radio is a pirate station that rebroadcasts Alex Jones's programming. Because I'm pretty sure the story is actually, the actual story was that they were saying this was Alex Jones's radio station. So let's find out. Let's look for a cached version here. Okay, it took me a quick second, but I found it. Here's the best part about this. FCC shuts down Alex Jones' flagship radio station. 5,318 shares. Woohoo! That is a good load of shares. And 316. The lie travels halfway around the world before the truth can strap on its boots. Bravo, Hill. That's some excellent due diligence you got there. So here's the story by Jacqueline Thompson, and it is by the same author of the corrected piece. And it says, the FCC has shut down Alex Jones's flagship radio station. This is fake news. It actually is fake news. I don't know how this happened, but I know the AP reported it. It would seem like no one actually did their due diligence. And look, I'm gonna rag on them here a little bit, but admittedly, when I did a story about Alex Jones the other day, I didn't actually watch Alex Jones's video on battle rifles. I just got my quote from the article. So I'm not invincible. I'm not infallible. I get things wrong too, and I'm susceptible to the same problems. What I think happened here was the Hill quoted the Associated Press. So here, right here, it says, the Associated Press reported that Olenek were named as defendants. So what ends up happening is they probably read the story from the AP. The AP screwed up, however. I don't know how they did. And now we have fake news about Alex Jones. So, you know, there's a lot of talk about the press being enemy of the people and all that stuff. And look, that kind of rhetoric is extremely dangerous. It's extremely hyperbolic. And no, we don't need Donald Trump calling the press the enemy of the people. The press is people. That's really the issue. They're not perfect. They're not smarter than anyone else. And I think too often people assume that just because you're a journalist, you're smarter than somebody. And some journalists think just because they're journalists, they're smarter than somebody. But the reality is, they're just people doing people stuff, and they're periodically going to make stuff like this. So the real issue is not that the press is actively, for the most part, working against the American public. It's that they're susceptible to all of the same problems. You know, I did a video just the other day where a tweet of mine about a post made in the anarchism subreddit about bringing guns to Portland went crazy. It got picked up by Gateway Pundit, and then got picked up by Zero Hedge. And then what was originally just a comment on a Reddit page turned into a headline of a bunch of different sites, making people think that activists were going to be armed to the teeth when they showed up in Portland. But let's look at something else that's interesting here. Look, Alex Jones was banned by like every platform. It's really important that when we're dealing with issues like this, news reporting is accurate. Unfortunately, what happens all too often is one news outlet will say, you know, Alex Jones's flagship radio station was taken down, and then the Hill will see it from the AP, and then everyone will start talking about it. Actually, this is a really good time to talk about a video I did yesterday that's actually still getting a ton of play. The story I did about the couple riding their bikes through Tajikistan to prove that evil didn't exist was totally misleading, and it was the source that I used, the Pluralist. So here's what happened. The Pluralist claimed that this happened, and then I checked the New York Times and a couple other sources and saw that the story was legit. It was legit sourced. And so I was like, okay, cool. I just used the Pluralist because I checked their sources. But apparently that wasn't the case, right? So nobody's invincible. I think the important thing is not that journalists always be right, but there's a few things we need to worry about. For one, this looks like an honest mistake, but this reporting is bad because people believe misinformation. This happened all the time before the internet. It happened with newspapers, and we need to find a way to solve for that, so it sucks. But at the same time, it's important not to forget that there are people who are going to lie, who are going to manipulate, and they're going to play this game on purpose. A lot of people who support Trump seem to think the press is just always lying on purpose. And these people exist. But there's always an easier answer that a lot of them are just really dumb. They're really dumb and they make mistakes. And the ones that aren't really dumb will also make mistakes. Hey, pencils have erasers. And certainly, I can point out right here, I made a mistake. Here's the difficult thing. When I was reading the story yesterday, I had no reason to disbelieve this article because they were sourcing CBS News and the New York Times. I just assumed the New York Times and CBS were doing a really long, story on these couples' lives, whereas the Pluralist had whittled it down to this specific instance of their journey. And the reality was, they weren't traveling the Middle East on their bikes to prove evil didn't exist. They were doing it for fun. But the man who died wrote in his blog that he found that people typically aren't evil, and I actually agree with that sentiment. So a better headline, I suppose, would be, couple finds that people aren't necessarily evil, goes to the Middle East, guess what happened? And, effectively, the message is corrected. So, here's what I did. For those that are curious, I left the video up at the same time. I put an updated bracket on there because I want to make sure that anybody who is seeing the story or hearing about it will still click it and then see that I included a source to CBS News in the description saying that the Pluralist story is actually misleading and that, here's the correct circumstances. So, it is what it is. Anyway, I got a couple more videos coming up in just a few minutes. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you in a couple minutes.